And we are back on the Zero Hour. And as we've been talking about today, this Supreme Court decision, like the ones before it, put corporations and wealthy people more and more in control of our lives. And it's more important than ever to look at the ways corporations are mistreating the rest of us in this world. And some of those are visible, some of those are not. And it's important to keep them all in the public eye. Our next guest, Kwanza Brooks, is a former McDonald's manager. She worked there as a manager for 12 years in Maryland and North Carolina. She made a video for the fast food workers movement, talking about how she and other managers were encouraged and pressured to really rob people of their wages, I guess it's fair to say, but she'll tell me. Kwanza, thanks so much for being with us.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
And you bet, and thanks so much for coming forward. I guess it can't have been easy, right, to start telling people what you've done and what you were pressured to do and how it made you feel. It must have took a little courage, huh?
Well, yeah, it's kind of because I'm still in the area, and you still come across the managers, from time to time. You might see them while you're out and about or shopping, or even perhaps when I stop by the store, because I do have children, and, all kids love McDonald's, so.
Unfortunately, that's true.
But it is something that needs to be done. It's something that needs to be spoke about and actually told, so that hopefully it encourages other people that have experienced it to come out and start telling their story as well.
Yeah. So tell us, you were a manager, and people are entitled to overtime, and, they clock in and they clock out. What were you pressured to do?
The main thing, the pressure came from, it's really controlled by labor, which, some people don't understand. The main pressure comes from keeping your labor down, which is a number that varies from, like, in the teens to maybe the 20. Like, 20% is a good number, but anything under that is excellent, for the whole entire day from all three shifts. And pretty much what I was taught to do and what I was told was, you look in the system when labor is high, and sometimes, to make adjustments, one of the adjustments that you could make would be to look in the system, see who's on the clock, see how many hours they worked, and if they had a break or not. And if they didn't have one, then, you could put it in there. You can actually manually put a break into the system, whether the employee took a break or not, just to balance out the labor. Once you put that 30 minutes in, it will make the number go down because it's going to take 30 minutes worth of work off, and it's going to make the number, whatever, if it was 21 or 22, it's going to bring it down. And,
so that means, so let me just, so our audience understands, but that also means they don't get paid for that half hour that they were actually working.
Exactly, whether they took the break or not.
So now you're saying you got pressure. Tell me about that a little bit. So you're a manager, and people are looking at your numbers, and you can look at your numbers, and it says, here's how much you paid for food or whatever, and you got a figure there that's labor, which is, what people are getting paid. And who's telling you, like, hey, Kwanza, your numbers are a little high here on the labor side? Who would say that to you?
That comes from the general manager, the assistant manager, the manager under him. It would come from the assistant. It would come from the GM. Even the area managers, who's over the store, it would come from all of them. Sometimes the owners, because I work for franchise owners as well, it would come from them. Maybe when they're looking at, because they can always look into the system. See, those managers don't have to physically be into the store, so they can know what's going on in the store from home, or some of them have the system in their home computers as well. They can tap into the computer, or they can come up to the store and just go on in the system and know what your labor is. And they would either, if they were in the store with you, they would say something to you at that particular point. Being that I was a closing manager, sometimes they wouldn't say anything to me till the next day. They might leave me a note or leave me a copy of the printout for the night before with the label highlighted in red or yellow, saying too high, you need to control it, watch your labor, things of that nature. So this is something that you hear every day. Check labor every day.
So they're on you about this all the time. And the implication, it was probably never said, but I'm guessing that the implication is, if you want to keep your job, you better get these numbers under control.
Pretty much. I mean, and that's pretty much what the ultimatum that you're given. I mean, they might not like just fire you directly, but they might switch your shift around. Like you might not be a closing manager anymore. You just might come in and work some day hours, you know, a midday shift or something, or they might transfer you to another store. I mean, you bounce around a lot, but it doesn't matter which store you work in or which McDonald's, which city or which state. The only thing that they're focused on is their labor and their food costs, you know, things that come out of this 100% total for the day. And it's so sad because at the end of the day, all that does is bring them a bonus. We don't see the bonus. You know, this is for the area managers, you know, the corporate high top people. They're the only ones that focus on this number because it's a competition. It's a competition between this store and all the other stores in the city. So at the end of the month, they look at it and they sit there and they base, oh, well, this store had a low rate for the whole month. They ran a 17% for the month or for the last 2 months. And that's where their bonuses will come from. They will literally get a bonus for it. So it's not that they're really concerned about the service time or they're really concerned about the customer service or anything. They're worried about the number because what they're going to get from it, their benefit from it.
That's really interesting. And now let me ask you, because, you know, we've been talking for a few minutes now. I can tell you're a nice person. I can tell you're a good person. Did you feel bad at the time? I mean, did you just kind of slip into this because they were pressuring you and you didn't really have time to think about it? Or did you feel bad at the time? I mean, I'm just curious to know what was kind of like in your heart at the moment, in the moment.
Well, at the beginning, it was more like I was tricked into doing it. I didn't know that it was actually taking away from the employers because the way that it was explained is like, oh, well, when you're watching your labor, you know, we were actually at the computer. I was closing the store down. So when she showed me that you can do that, the way it presented was if, you know, by putting the break in only seemed like you were balancing the hours. I didn't know that it was physically taking and from the employees until after a while, after 2 months of working there, a couple of employees came in and started complaining about their check. So when the red flag went off to me that this is something that they were doing, I wouldn't do it. You know, like I'm not doing it. I would try, you know, to do labor other ways, you know, whether I had to switch people around or even send somebody home early, which is just as bad. I mean, that's the other way to control it is to send someone home. And that's just as bad because if you're scheduled for 8 hours and you're trying to get at least 30 hours, 40 hours a week, you know, when you come in and work and because labor is high, I mean, at any given point in time, they'll ask you to go home. So it's like a no-win situation. If you look at it, they're still taking money from you.
They're still taking money from you, and when you do that, that might be more legal and honest.
Exactly. It's more legitimate, but it's still, you know, it's still making them not have the money that they need, and people count on that.
And not only that, but then the people in your store, they're not going to get as good service because there aren't as many people working, right?
Exactly, and that's the problem that you run into when you are a closing manager is because of that. They keep that labor. They focus on that number so much that from the time they open till about 3 o'clock, they might have sent 2 of your people that probably should have worked till 7 or 8 o'clock. They probably sent them home because labor was so high. So when you come to work, you're left with 5 people versus day shift. They have 12. You know, that's a big difference. Of course you could get cars in and out and the front people in and out. But when you only have 5 people on your shift, that's you included, with 1 person in the grill and 1 cashier and 1 drive-through, it's virtually impossible to try to maintain a low labor and good customer, quality customer service.
Yeah, and, you know, it might go okay for an hour, and then you get a crowd of people coming in, and then you're stuck. I know how that goes.
Exactly.
So what are you doing now? I guess you're not working for McDonald's anymore, so you're doing the same kind of work for a different company? Or, I mean, you don't have to tell us who, but you're in the same line of work now?
Well, similar work. Actually, I had relocated back down here. So I actually just did an interview and got a position with another restaurant not too long ago. So I'll be actually starting there. I haven't actually started yet, but I will be starting with them. But no, I haven't gone back to McDonald's in a while. I mean, you know, it's just you get tired of it, and it's like I tell people, this wage stuff. Just let me tell you, it is just one of the many things that are wrong with these stores. You know, I'm glad that they're finally catching up to it, but this is only one issue and one problem that they really, you know, mistreat their employees. It's several others that hopefully will come out, you know, eventually. You know, even how you can't even get enough hours. It's like McDonald's could be a great job, but when you have family, when you have children, and you have bills, who can work with 30 hours? They don't even like paying you over 30 hours. They barely schedule you over 30 hours. So, that is not even the average. So you can imagine what your checks and stuff, will look like, and then what your bills and stuff are looking like. So it's not worth the headache.
They probably have reasons for keeping it below 30 hours because then, there are less, sometimes there's state and other laws that come in if you're working full time, so they don't want you to work full time and all of that. But listen, as you know, there's a lawsuit now, so maybe some things will start to change. And, congratulations on getting that new job. I can already tell they're getting a really good employee, and they'll be glad to have you. So thanks for coming on the show, Kwanza Brooks.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
You bet. Now, we're going to come back on a very different topic. After this, we're going to be talking with Cliff Schecter about gun control, but that was Kwanza Brooks telling us about some of the wage games they play with labor costs over at McDonald's. There's a pattern tying all this together, folks. That's what we keep talking about here on the Zero Hour. There's a pattern tying all this together. We will be right back after these messages. I'm Richard Eskow, and this is the Zero Hour.